So we're in series 6, which is Bereshith. Also Genesis. We're gonna start in chapter 16. And in this section, there's a lot has happened that has come up to this point. But this is going to get to more the importance of women. So in this scenario, we're going to see how important it is the decision making, what type of thinking is going on, and just seeing, the kind of situations that come about when, females choose to do what's right rather than obeying God and their husbands. So again, chapter 16, and Sarai, Abram's wife, had borne him no child, and she had a Mizraim female servant whose name was Hagar. All right, so no child at this point. What happens when you're married and no child? All right, sometimes a female or a wife may be comfortable with you not having children. They may appear to be comfortable not having children, but they really, truly deep down want it. And they start thinking of ways to, have one. They may wonder why it's not happening between her and the husband. So there's a lot to think about. Now, female servant. As you remember in the beginning with Adam and Hawa, same thing. It was a tree, and we had a Nahash that was also involved between the two. It's another one. When you look at Lot, the commandment was to take yourself, and he told him to take his wife. He told him to leave his relatives, and he brought Lot. Remember, so a lot of things has happened. We'll get to them in a minute, but we focus on Sarah right now, right? So no child at this point. She had a female servant, so 2 women involved. All right, so let's continue on. And Sarai said to Abram, see, we have the name of God right there, has kept me from bearing children. Please go into my female servant. It might be that I am built up by her. And Abram listened to the voice of Sarai. So, again, she comes up with a solution. Just like what Hawa was. She comes up with a solution. Gave her husband some and he ate. Now, we see here, she says God kept her from not having children. Now, she didn't want to be patient and wait on God's timing. All right, so God has his own perfect timing for everything, especially if he chose you for something, you have to be patient with his timing. So no matter how long it takes, it's by his design, his reason. It's nothing you can do about it. But they chose their own decision. She made up her mind. She chose her own decision to say, hey, take my female servant, go into her and have children, and she going to be built up by her. Now, she's trying to say the blessing is going to come through her servant. She just feel like she can just put it on whoever she wants. All right. And then another key here, Abram listened to the voice of Sarai. Now, for a male, if you're married, if your wife tells you, hey, here's my best friend, have a child with her because, we can start our family through her that way because they're not getting kids at this point. Let's see what will happen with that. You think a husband would turn that down? He listened to her. It was no argument here or anything. So, you see, we're finna see what's finna happen now. This is exactly what be happening in some marriages, the same situations. Verse 3. And Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her female servant, the Mizraim, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan. And he went into Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. All right. She conceived right away. And when he went into Hagar, she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. Already. Drama going on already. She made a decision to have her husband go with her servant to be his wife. Now that she's conceived, drama is happening. All right, this is her own mess. All right, look. Verse 5. And Sarai said to Abram, my wrong be upon you. I gave my female servant into your bosom, and when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. And we have the name of God right here, judge between you and me. Now they're not one now. Now they're separate now, between you and me. Like something's going on. Why she's not conceiving? How did she conceive and she didn't? Are they the same? What arguments could have taken place here? Why didn't she wait on God? He didn't turn down that. He went with it. Let's go to verse 6. And Abram said to Sarai, see, your female servant is in your hand. Do to her what is good in your eyes. And Sarai treated her harshly, and she fled from her presence. Now, she caused her servant to flee from her. Her servant did what she told her to do, what she asked her to do. You see, she did exactly accordingly. She didn't disobey. And look what she did. End up treating her harshly now. Think about that. How many of you have friends in situations where, you may be involved, have a male involved, you and your friend, and you tell her to do something or she does something and, it start going good for them. And now, you want the guy, you really want him. And now you treating her, your best friend, harshly because, now she's having fun and they conceive, whatever's going on, and you're despised now. All right, so that's a lot to go on. That's a lot to take in there, a lot to be said. But look at the situations happen when you make your own decisions rather than waiting on God and trusting in Him. All right, so she fled from her presence. Remember that. So verse 7. And the messenger of, we have the name of God right here, found her by a spring of water in the wilderness, by the spring on the way to Shur. And he said, Hagar, Sarah's female servant, where have you come from? And where are you going? And she said, I am fleeing from the presence of Sarai, my mistress. All right. And the messenger of, we have the name of God right there, said to her, return to your mistress and humble yourself under her hand. And the messenger of, we have the name of God right there, said to her, I am going to increase your seed greatly, too numerous to be counted. And the messenger of God said to her, see, you are conceiving and bearing a son, and shall call his name Ishmael, because, and we have the name of God right there, has heard your affliction. And he is to be a wild man, his hand against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and dwell over against all his brothers. Now, they started something right here. All right. She obeyed her mistress. She fled from her because she was being treated harshly. That's not what God wanted her to do. He told her to go back and humble yourself under her hand. She still has to be her mistress, right? Or her servant, right? So, and as we see, we go down, we see the type of man she's going to be having now. Now, we have the previous one, right? Back in the other lineage. All right, we have the previous one who, Cain. All right, we ain't going to go too far back into that, but you have to follow along. But now, we have this, a wild man. All right, it talks about what type of man he's going to be, how he's going to be with his brothers and everything like that. So, that's something key to point out. Now, we go down to verse 15. And Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram called the name of his son, whom Hagar bore Ishmael. And Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abram. So, we see the age here now. He's pretty old. For us, that's really old. You don't know anybody old having children at this point. Maybe you do. But for us, as we look at it, it's old. Now, as we go over, we're in chapter 17. There's more to this now. All right, so verse 15. And Elohim said to Abraham, now, Abraham, you have to go back and check now. Abraham is Abram. All right. So what's going to happen is when we go back and talk about the men of the Bible, we're going to see more about that. So now we're going to see what happened. But remember, they're one now, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. So as we read on, you're going to kind of get what happened. But you want to check into that. That's for you to go read, right? So, and Elohim said to Abraham, as for Sarai, your wife, do not call her name Sarai, for Sarah is her name. She just got a new name. Remember that. All right. So, verse 16. And I shall bless her and also give you a son by her. And I shall bless her, and she shall become nations. Sovereigns of peoples are to be from her. So we see the type of people that's going to come from her. All right. He's going to bless her, and she shall become nations. So the nations of peoples coming, the type of people that's coming from her. We go to verse 17. And Abraham fell on his face and laughed and said in his heart, is a child born to a man who is 100 years old? Or is Sarah, who is 90 years old, to bear a child. Now, we see she's 90 years old. He's 100 years old. Older now. So he waited till she was 90 years old before this came. Now, he's laughing. All right, he fell on his face and laughed. All right, and he's asking God, is a child born to a man who is 100 years old? He's like, he too old to have a child. He laughing. That's why he had one with the mistress, right? And see, Sarah did the same thing as Abraham, right? Or Abram. If you go back, she told him God has kept her from having a child. And she quickly made a decision to say, hey, take her mistress and have a child through her. But that was not God's plan. So as we see, God does things his way, not ours. So you may think it may be a right way, but in the end, it's not. And it's a Bible verse about that as well. We'll get to that further on. So verse 18. And Abraham said to Elohim, oh, let Ishmael live before you. And Elohim said, no, Sarah, your wife, is truly bearing a son to you, and you shall call his name Yishak. And I shall establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard you. See, I shall bless him, and shall make him fruitful, and greatly increase him. He is to bring forth 12 princes, and I shall make him a great nation. But my covenant I established with Yishak, whom Sarah is to bear to you at this appointed time next year. And when he had ended speaking with him, Elohim went up from Abraham. So we see here another key point. He is right there talking to Abraham, however he's talking. All right, he's communicating with him. And we say talking, basically communicating. We don't know exactly how. It could have been an animal. It could have been an angel. It could have been himself, his presence itself. We don't know. And then we see the covenant here. All right. He said his covenant he established with him on those promises is going to come from Sarah. She felt unworthy probably. She chose her mistress, thinking it's going to be a better situation with her because she's not having the kids, thinking something may be wrong. She's older now. Look at the worry and doubt that's coming in. And God told him in previous chapters about the blessings that's coming through them. They doubted. So, like I said, certain situations, unconventional situations that make you uncomfortable, you can't doubt God. You just have to keep trusting and just wait it out. It's just that simple. That's how life is. If you read on and you continue following the series, you're going to see it's the same thing. Now, we see that Ishmael, he was talking about his son, let Ishmael live before you. Let Ishmael, the son he made before, let him come before you. It's sometimes some parents, they decide on having a child, planning a child. Maybe it's for sports or, whatever. They do all they can. They train hard. They pick the right girl. And then, their whole life, they were just banking on having this child. And, sometimes they pick the different woman for it. And it's the right woman in their eyes. But that's not who God planned or had for them. And they want them to have the blessings that God had for the original chosen pick, which was Yishak. And he chose Sarah for it. But no, they chose and thought that was going to be better for the mistress because she wasn't conceiving at the time that they thought they should have. So, again, you see that he laughed. When God was talking to him, he laughed about it. So he didn't take it serious. Thought he was too old. Thought that the promise he gave him was lying. But we see that God does not lie. All right, so. Name change. Sarai is now Sarah. So that's something to continue to look at. So we're going to have the key points of all this going in. But we see the importance of women's role in here. Sarai. So what some things that they can take into consideration is, doing what God tells you to do. Don't be like your mother Harawa. Don't follow in those same footsteps. Don't lie. Lying is there. Trusting God. And then if your husband is trying to convince you into doing something, you got to remember that, hey, you're there to be a helpmate. Help him go in the right direction. That's what you're there for. That's what a strong woman of God is. All right. So even if those who are musically talented and gifted in that area, still do good. It's that simple. But other than that, God bless. We get the key points out and we'll go from there.